And we're going to start. So for those of you who can't see the screen, hopefully that will be okay. But if you can pop on so you can see the screen, that will be better. And everybody needs a pen and a paper. So I'm just going to get into it so we don't waste a ton of people's time. I'm really about that these days. So I did this little exercise and it really helped me. And I thought that it would be kind of something, just a good change of pace, and something that I think will really help each of us. And I think it would be a good thing for us to sort of come together on as a group, maybe in the Vision Factory, and work on. For those of you that are in the Vision Factory, for those that are in Team Lift, you can do this too, and it will really help. But what I wanted to ask a couple questions first. One, are you struggling to set goals, organize, prioritize your life, and find a connection between all of those things? Are you struggling to reach goals? Are you struggling to figure out where to start? Are you struggling to figure out, like, you've got so many things in every single basket that you're like, I don't know where to begin? Like, that's me in a nutshell. I have felt like that for a really long time. And I've tried to do like a ton of different organization things and like prioritize things differently. And it wasn't really until I figured out this little method that's been working for me that I really got it and understood why it wasn't working, and what I think the mistakes are that I've been making in trying to connect all of these things that are important, all of my priorities, all the things that I think matter the most, and be able to prioritize them in an order that makes sense. Okay, so I wanted to share just this little presentation, then I'm going to take you through a little exercise. So I'm going to share the screen, and hopefully you guys will be able to see it. If you can't, somebody please let me know. But here's what I wanted to kind of go through, and this will be pretty quick. So it's not going to be like a super long presentation, but I just wanted to teach you this really simple method and see if it helps you guys. So not only do I want to go through this, but I want you guys to actually do it and then give feedback. Okay, and we're going to try and do it on the call so that you can just do it right now, because it's really simple. So I've discovered the main areas of our lives that I feel, these are the areas of my life that I feel make me a whole person. Okay, so my family, my marriage and relationship, body, mind, soul, right? Those are kind of given. Your finances and your personal self, like your own well-being. So the finances kind of comes into this because your finances are really what supports your goals, and a lot of the time, and supports some of these other aspects of your life that you're trying to become better, right? So it's an important part, and it's something that a lot of people stress about. A lot of people, these are the things that I think a lot of people either lose sleep over, feel depressed about at some point in their life, need to prioritize at other times in their life, right? There's all these things. Everybody can relate to most of these things on this list. Everybody wants, to have a good relationship with each of these things. And I think when you're trying to juggle career, kids, marriage, life, self, your own, physical goals, your own everything, it's really difficult to figure out where to put all this stuff. And here's where I think everybody makes a fatal mistake. Well, a lot of people, where I was making a fatal mistake, is instead of prioritizing them really in the right way to figure out what areas I needed to work on, what I would do is I would look at all of these different areas and I would be like, okay, what's the most important thing? And it wouldn't always be like, what's the most important thing to Jace? Like, what's the most important thing in general, right? Everybody puts family at the very top. And sort of this, you have this order in your mind of all these different things, right? So the first thing I want you guys to do is just take out a piece of paper and pen, and I want you to write down these categories, okay? Family, marriage, or relationship, whatever it is, body, mind, soul, finances, and personal self. I want you to write all of those down, okay? Again, naturally what's probably going to happen is you're going to write them in the priority you think they should be, right? Naturally in your life. So this is where I think I was making a mistake and where I made a correction and figured out how I could prioritize all of these things in the right way to keep everything in harmony, right? Because again, balance is something that's kind of like this, right? Where you're just sort of balancing all the time. Harmony is kind of more of a even keel. It's more of a straight across line. And really, I think the key to living a healthy, fulfilling life is having these things in harmony and being at peace with each of these categories and where you are in the process with each of these things. So prioritizing them properly, I think, is really key in order to taking action and getting more things done. So I'm going to give you guys a little assignment, and I want you to rate your health in these areas. Okay, so for those of you that can't see the screen, this might be a little bit, I'm just going to say it out loud so that you can hear it. But I want you to rate your health in each of these areas from 1 to 10. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what the scale means because this is a really important part. Okay, so I want you to pick a number for each of these areas of your life and how healthy you feel in that area. Okay, so 1 is very poor, like you feel very poor about this. Number 2 is just poor. 3, you feel okay about it. 4, you feel you're below average in this category. 5, you feel average. Okay, 6, you feel good about it. 7, maybe you feel positive about where you are in this category. 8, you feel confident and strong. 9, you feel it's the best that it can be. Okay, and then 10 is the best it's ever been. Okay, so this rating system is really important. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to go through this. And if you need me to re-say them out loud, then I will. But I want you to go ahead and rate sort of how you're feeling or where your health is. And as far as like, do you feel like your family is in kind of poor condition? Do you feel like it's in the best it can be condition? Do you feel like it's in good condition? How are you feeling about that specific subject right now in your life? How are you feeling about your marriage and your relationships? How are you feeling about your body right now? How are you feeling about your mind, your mindset, right? How are you feeling about your soul? Is it being fed? How do you feel about your financial situation? How do you feel about your own personal self? So I'm going to stop the screen share for just a second. And I want you guys, when you're done, to post in the chat and just say I'm done. Okay, so that you can, so I know where you're at. Because it's really hard when I'm staring at just your names and not your faces. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who's doing it. Okay, so I want you guys to focus on these categories just to keep it simple tonight. So you don't need to stress about, because here's the other thing that I'm discovering is people prioritize things and then they like have micro categories. So you have like family, and then you have like kids, my dog, my snacks, you know what I mean? Like all these things that you feel like are like members of your family that you have to like nourish. So I don't want micro categories. I just want these big categories. It'll make it a lot easier, okay? So now that you guys have sort of rated where you're at with these things, this is probably the most important part after, is where do you want to be with all of these things? Okay, so where do you want to be in your marriage? Where do you want to be with your family? Where do you want to be with your body? Where do you want to be with your mind and your soul and your finances and yourself? Okay, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to read the scale again so that you guys, as you're going, can rate this. Where do you want to be with your family? Are you thinking that you want to stay in the very poor? Like, I want my family to be in really poor condition? Probably not, right? So I want you to identify where you need or want these categories to be in your life. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second to do that. I'm just going to pull up the chat so that I can see what you guys are saying. Ashley, I want you to really think about it. Because I initially thought that too. Like, I want to be a 10 in every single category. But when you really think about it, you might not. You know what I mean? I want you to ask yourself with every single question, like, do you have to be in the best place it's ever been all the time in every single category? For me, that would insinuate like I had to be perfect at every single thing all at one time. And for me, that didn't work. So for me, I was more in a 8 to 10 range in most of these categories, right? And I think that that is hard. Like when you do hold yourself to that kind of standard, like, no, I want the best for every single category. Sure, we want the best for every single category. Is that realistic? I don't know. Maybe. If it is, then put that as your goal. Rate them how you truly feel inside. It's got to be 100% what you really feel. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So for me, ones I didn't put a 10 on, right, was my mindset, which may surprise some of you, but mine was really at a 9 because realistically for me, I can only try to be the best I can be in that category. There's going to be days where I'm a mess, and there's going to be days where I'm like the best I've ever been, right? So that may be something that kind of wavers sometimes. But on average, I like my mindset to be the best where I feel like it can be for whatever's going on with my life in that moment. Does that make sense? Another one was my body. Okay. That was one that I was kind of going between 8 and 9 on, not necessarily a 10. Like I want to feel confident. I want to feel strong, right? I want to feel like I'm achieving the best that I can in the moment that I have, the age that I'm at, right? The sleep deprivation, the food deprivation, the I'm full and I'm totally not sleep deprived right now. Like that to me is something that's also ever changing. So when you really are truthful sort of with yourself, the better this exercise is going to be. So for me, those areas were kind of like, no, I don't want it. It's not that I don't want it to be the best it's ever been. That was just too much of an unrealistic expectation for me. Like I would like to live in the 7 to 9 zone in those areas, okay? So here is how you can create a way to prioritize for you. And again, I think that a lot of us make that fatal mistake of just listing these categories out in what we think other people, right, would socially accept as the right order. So for example, if finances is number 1 and you put your family last, people would be like, what? Right? That's what I want you to get over. Who freaking cares about that? Because this is what's going to change your mindset on this exercise, is that all of these things are equally important for your life. They're on an even playing field, right? Because each of these categories are important to you, right? At different times, and this is the kicker, at different times, you're going to be strong in one area and need work in another. And this exercise is going to help you constantly be in the right place, working towards the things that matter to you and your life the most, not to what everybody else thinks, not to what anybody else is doing, but what you exactly need right now. Okay, so what I want you to do is take these 2 lists that you made on a scale of 1 to 10 where you feel you are, and a scale on 1 to 10 where you want to be. Okay, and I want you to calculate the difference between the 2. Okay, so I'm just going to give you an example. I wrote an example out so that I would have one to show you. So in this example, I wrote a 7 for where I'm at with my body. I feel pretty positive about where I'm at with my body, right? But where do I want to be? Probably a 9. I want to be the best that I feel I can be, right? So there's a 2-point sort of difference, a 2-notch difference. So I want you to write the difference, okay? And for this exercise, there's 7 categories. So go ahead and figure out what that difference is between where you are and where you want to be. On another example I did, probably my mindset at an 8 where I feel pretty confident and strong, but I would like it to be more of a 9, right? So I need to take it up one notch. Make sense? Maybe some of you are like at a 4 or a 5 with your family life right now. Like things are maybe super chaotic like they are in my household where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Where are my kids? Where's my husband? What's going on today? Like I'm kind of a fish out of the bowl right now. Whereas Margaret is probably like, my kids are grown. I have my grandkids. Like I'm home and I'm fine. And that's great. You know what I mean? So this is why this is so important, because again, the constant reassessment of this is going to help you understand what you need right now. So once you've done this, I want you to go ahead and write numbers 1 through 7. And I want you to write number 1, the category that you need to improve in the most. Which category do you need to go up the most notches, right? And I want you to do that until you've created your whole list. So in this little example that I wrote out, family, I needed to go up 6 notches, right? In this example. So I was sitting at a 4, but I feel like I need to really be at a 10 in this area. So that was a big one. Like this particular model needed to be, I need to really make significant progress in this area. So family in this specific example would be number 1. That's the thing that's lacking the most, right? And then kind of going down from there. So once you've done that, I want you to really, we're just going to focus for the sake of this exercise on the top 3. And this is really where I want you to look. And the more honest you are with yourself with this exercise, the better it's going to be for you. So your top 3. Okay, and this is the example I used. This was the order that it came out to be. So family was number 1, marriage was number 2, soul was number 3. Those were the top 3 things that were lacking the most in this specific example person's life, right? Next was sort of their finances, kind of out in a mess, their body image, their mindset, and their self. These were all their strongest areas, okay? These are their weakest areas at the moment. So once you identify where you're at, then you can take action, right? Then you can set goals, and then you can work on it. So this is what I really wanted to get across. If you know where your pain points are and you know how to identify them in other people's lives, you can help them set goals that they're going to reach. You can help them create action plans, right? So I wanted to give you an example. If this was somebody I was coaching, or let's just say this is me, just so that we can, keep it that way. If family is my number 1 goal, my next step is to set goals on how to improve in that specific area. What can I do to make my family better? Right? This is simple. I want you to set 3 goals for each category. Your top 3, okay? Not your, from 4 down, you're pretty okay right there, right? You can survive in that land. So what I want you to focus on is your most significant areas of need. So with your family, set 3 goals, right? I can do a family night once a week, every single Monday, and get my kids together and do something family-oriented, no friends, no TV, no cell phones, nothing, but just a family activity every single week consistently, at least 1 time a week. That's something I feel like I can do, right? An immediate goal that I can take action on. Next, we do like a family feast on Sundays where like we all try and cook different things, and like Knox and Dad do the dessert and Gray and Mom do the dinner, and like it's just this thing, right? So you can set little things that you would like to see happening in your family. If family is the number 1 area of need, or whatever your number 1 area of need is, you know already what needs to happen to fix it, right? You already know what you can do immediately that will make a difference. And I think when you're not trying to juggle every single one of these things and you allow yourself to just focus on what matters the most right now to you in your life, you're able to take action and you're able to set goals and you're able to reach the goals because you've simplified it, broke it down, prioritized it, organized it, and you know exactly where the work needs to be done and where the focus needs to lie in your life, right? So this exercise was extremely helpful for me, like I said, and it was one that was kind of eye-opening, but it was also one that I realized when I was sitting down, like, this is really what I want to help people do. Like, this is really what we get to do as coaches. We get to take people and the things that they are needing the most right now and prioritize them, help them organize them, help them create an action plan, help hold them accountable, and support them in their journey, right? The coolest part about this exercise, you guys, is you get to see the growth that you created in your life. Because if you reassess this list and redo this exercise once a month, it's going to ebb and flow, right? Your priorities are going to change and you'll be able to easily identify that, easily organize them, easily create a 30-day action plan and put it into place. And when you take your life in micro steps like this and you're able to really see clearly what needs focus right now and what you can kind of put on the back burner that's doing okay and keep doing what you've been doing because it's working, your life becomes a lot easier to manage and a lot more productive and a lot more fun. And I think that you find a lot more joy in the things that you're doing. Trenton said, relationship is the best for me, at least one date night a week. Awesome, right? It's so simple. So what I want you guys to do is identify your top 3, and I want you to set 2 or 3 goals. Don't do more than that because it's not realistic. Okay, if you really need to improve, if you feel strongly too about one area, focus entirely on that. Okay, what's cool though is all of these other categories that you are strong in. What I want you to do is go through and identify how those things play a positive role in the things that you need help with, right? So in your family life, if you're struggling with your family or whatever, like this example, how are your finances going to help you improve your family life? How is your body image? How is your mindset? How is your, what was the other one on that? Let me look. I was just going to see what I put on this. How is your self, like your personal self and your well-being, going to help you, those strong categories that you're already good at, going to help you make your family better and make your marriage better and feed your soul in a better way? Does that make sense? You can kind of draw on your strengths where you're strong right now and identify what's helping in these other areas that you need help with. Like in your family, if you could create an extra $100 a month in your business, right? You could take your family out for ice cream once a week. There's your family activity, right? You can start to kind of connect the dots and see how they all sort of connect together. And then once you really learn how to, again, bring them to harmony, not balance, because I don't think they're ever going to be balanced all at the same time, ever. I try. I've never accomplished it. I don't know if somebody else has, but 1 or 2 or 3 of these things is always going to be on the forefront. And the most important thing for you to move forward, to make progress, to set goals, to achieve goals, is to understand, identify, and know exactly where the work needs to be done, right? What do they say about success all the time? If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know why you're going there, you're never going to get anywhere. And that's the truth. It's just like with all of these different things in our life, right? If we don't know what we want for our family, if we don't know what we want it to look like, if we don't know where the best we can be with our body is, then how are we ever going to gauge how much progress and work we need to put in, right? If we're not happy with our finances, what can we do to make them better? Not like, let's continue to live in this place where they're horrible. Like, this is one thing that I'm learning too, is a lot of people when they feel threatened, when they feel fear, when they feel scared, when they don't really have an action plan, when they haven't really identified a direction, they look for every single excuse possible to get out. They look for every way that they can justify not doing what needs to get done, instead of looking for all the reasons and all the ways they can get back in and get engaged and be better, right? They go the opposite way. So when people start making a lot of excuses, when they start justifying a lot of things, it's because they're afraid. It's because they don't have a strong action plan. It's because they probably don't have a lot of self-confidence, right? Which comes from having an action plan, feeling organized, feeling like their priorities are in order, right? All of these things, again, are connected. So I think when you guys are working, and this is why it's applicable to our job so much, is if we are constantly focused on doing this, organizing and prioritizing our life, this is something you could legitimately teach someone else and really change their life and help them maintain harmony in all of these categories that really matter. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I work so much. I need a schedule. I need to sit down and write everything out. I need a to-do list. No, you don't. You need to know exactly where your priorities lie, where you're struggling in your life and where you're strong, so that you can work on what matters. And once you identify that, that's all the reason why you need. You know why? Because all of these things that we listed in this exercise are what make up life. Our family, our relationships, our physical, mental, internal, emotional selves, right? Our financial situation, and our own personal happiness and health. I mean, what else is there? All of these things, again, are equally important. So it's not a matter of, this is number one, this is number two, this is number three. No, like, these are all number one. And we need to make sure that we're focusing on the areas that we need to focus on in order to stay positive and productive in our life, right? And being able to see how all of these things interact with each other to make them better, not make them worse, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I have to work to create more money in my business, but that takes away from my family, right? No, you're working more because you're trying to create more for your family. So what can you do with that career? What can you do with that income to make this better instead of make it worse, right? How is, having a better body image going to help your marriage and your relationships? That's a given. If you're confident, everything's different, right? Everything. If you feel good about where you're at personally in your life, if you feel like you're being fed, if you're feeling joyful every day, if you're feeding your soul by helping other people and serving other people, guys, there are so many different things. And sometimes this might be a daily, I need to rate myself today. Where the freak am I? I'm losing like my life. Where am I? Sometimes it's just, you know what? I feel like I'm really lacking in this area. Maybe I need to go do some service. Maybe I need to go help somebody else just because, and stop thinking so much about myself, because I feel like this part of ourselves is so much of this business. And I don't think a lot of people think that way, but I do. I think your soul is fed by service of others. That's other people that you personally help, affect, impact, whatever. That's what that's what feeds your soul, right? So there's so many different things that you can identify, but I think that this little exercise alone, just seeing where you're at in these, and sometimes it's really hard to be like, you know what? My finances are really in bad shape. I'm super horrible with debt. You know what I mean? So I hope that this gave you guys a little bit of clarity. I hope this exercise was helpful and helped you sort of identify and organize your life a little bit so that you can proactively start working on these things. And that's what I would like to do in our Vision Factory for the rest of the year, along with this, trying to help people get started on this path, right, of figuring out where they need to prioritize things, how to get their body where it needs to be on this health scale, right? And I think, again, the more we can practice these things, the better. So if you would like to maybe just post some of your goals. I don't know if you guys want to be like, I got a 1 on this, or this was my number 1 category that I suck at. I mean, some people are really good about that. And I think that it's more powerful when you're forthcoming with that information because it holds you more accountable. So if I know what your focus is and, you know, I feel like your marriage and your relationship or whatever is your number 1 priority right now, guess what I can do? I don't think you should plug into the team call tonight. I think you should go be with your spouse or your partner or go do something, right? We can help each other prioritize these things and help you feel fulfilled in these areas so that you can be more productive at work and want to help other people and feed your soul in that way. Because the happier you are, the healthier you are, the more that you take care of you first, the more you are able to do that for other people. Because I will tell you, the instant that you let yourself go and you're starving in any of these categories, it almost becomes impossible to help other people. I had this one last just thought that I'll share and then I'll let you guys go. I thought of this story about a man who was starving to death and he came across a barrel of food, right? And he hadn't been eating in months and months and been roaming the desert and, you know, eating insects and whatever he could find. And then all of a sudden he just came across this giant barrel of food. And with that barrel of food came a sea of 1,000 other starving people. And all he wanted to do was feed himself, right? But there were all these people who were also starving. And he was like, oh, you know what? I need to feed all these other people first, or else I need to feed all these other people. So he started feeding all these other people. And pretty soon he didn't have the energy to keep feeding them. He didn't have anything left. He depleted himself down to the bone and died before other people were fed. And he also let himself go. It's interesting because there's so many parables with this, and I just thought about this now. I don't know why. I've heard the story in the book, The Alchemist. I don't know if any of you have read it, but I just thought of like a biblical reference of like feeding the fish anyway. But it was interesting just reading this parable because it was so different from all the other ones that I'd read where you're like, no, you feed everybody else, and then at the end, there's enough food for you, and then you feed yourself, right? And then everybody's happy and everybody's fine. But realistically, it's no different than the airline thing. Like you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can put it on somebody else. Like make sure that you are capable, healthy, and intact to serve and help other people. That's why Beachbody is so awesome, because we get to do both things. We get to save our own lives, and then we get to help other people save their own lives. And that's awesome. So hopefully this exercise was good. Do any of you guys have any questions about this at all? I would love to talk about this in more detail in the Vision Factory so that we have something to grasp onto and talk to and support each other through. So I think that if you guys can identify even one of your, top 3 or 4, or whatever it is that you want to share, that you want to work on, that you set a couple goals on, or if you need help setting goals in any of these categories, because that's also difficult sometimes when you're in a really bad place. It's hard to set goals to get out of it, right? And you need ideas from other people, then post about it and let's talk about it so that we can work on this over the next month or so and then maybe reassess and see. That's really when the cool part happens, because you don't look at your old results until you've redone the assignment and you reassess, where am I at? Where do I want to be? And then you can look where you were a month ago, right? It's just a different kind of before and after photo, but one that has tremendous meaning, right? Okay. Margaret said, no questions, but you're so right that always need to prioritize focus. Sometimes our life teaches us these hard lessons. I agree. If we're willing to learn, then we can fix it. I think so many times, you guys, if you think about your customers or your coaches that have fallen off, it's because we're not feeding them what they need. Maybe they, don't really need that before and after photo, but maybe like their family's really struggling, or maybe they're struggling with their finances, or maybe like they have nothing that's really fulfilling their soul at the moment. If you could fill some of those categories, they're going to become more productive everywhere else. And that's really like the risk and the scary part is like, oh, if I let my foot off the gas on these things that I'm strong in to focus on these things that I'm weak in, then I'm going to lose everything. But again, the key is to use and draw from your strengths to enhance those areas that are weak, and rely on the things that you're good at to get you through some of these other things that you really want to be better at, you know? Anyway, I love you guys. I hope that this was helpful. This helped me tremendously. So go ahead and post about it. We'll talk about it, and I will see you guys on Thursday for the team call.